And then today, I guess we can talk about what we're doing today for real. We are going to be doing HTV on wood, which we've done a few tutorials here and there on that. But this is like a cute little Easter bunny tray. And so it's kind of a spin-off of the Santa tray.
Yes.
Because you know everybody does the Santa tray with the deer food and all that. This is for the Easter bunny. And it's so cute. So let's just go ahead. We can get into it. If y'all have questions, feel free to ask.
Absolutely.
But we'll go ahead and start crafting so we don't take up too much time. So we still have our Make-a-thon screen set up, and we probably need to move it. It's gigantic. So that way we could see everybody on Saturday. So let's go overhead. I'm going to show you guys what we're making today. This is like just the cutest little, it's giving me like shabby chic Easter.
Which is
it's like my favorite Easter vibe, I think.
Shabby chic vintage Easter.
Yes. So what we've done is just taken a wood sign from Hobby Lobby, and I got some handles from Hobby Lobby as well and just glued them on here. And then we're just going to be designing this in Design Space and then cutting it out of HTV and applying it. So super cute, right?
Yes.
And then I went ahead and glued on my little handles. We're going to be doing a couple other things to those. I went ahead and glued them because I didn't want them to like not be glued on here initially, but you really are just going to need some super glue gel or E6000. This is a little bit more aggressive. This is probably going to be more permanent, but honestly, super glue gel is going to work just fine. I just brought two options in case you don't have one of them on hand. You may be able to get away with just using regular glue or regular super glue, but sometimes the gel is better on wood because it doesn't soak into it as easily. And then I've got some white paint because we're going to kind of add some white paint on these handles. I've just got some water to rinse my paintbrush. I have a paintbrush, a weeding tool, a pin tool because we are dealing with some dainty letters today. And then I've got two colors of HTV. So I've got this is the Easy Weed Green Olive. This is like one of my favorite colors of all time. And then this is like a true carrot orange. This is actually Soft Flex HTV, but you know what? It works. It's HTV. It's going to be fine.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and get into Design Space. So let me okay. So I've already made this in Design Space, but I'm just going to kind of take you all through how I did it, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go and snag the two font files that I will need and then the wreath file. So let's hop on to the Maker's Gonna Learn website. Also, can we talk about the new Design Space update, Lauren?
Oh,
Lauren posted a video on this yesterday.
If you all have not seen, if you go to your beta version of Cricut Design Space, they now have, get ready for this, the warp text function.
Yes.
Now, this is still in the beta function. It is not in the live version. You can play around with it if you are not a Cricut Access user, but y'all, this is the only drawback for this, is that you have to use Cricut. You have to have a Cricut Access membership to use this. So let's talk about, so I did make a video on this yesterday. Go check that out, watch that, because not only do I show you and we kind of play around with the warp function, but I show you how you can do it, y'all, for free and not have Cricut Access membership. So one of the things that I really did not like about and I know, listen, they are still in the testing phases, so I applaud Cricut for for bettering their program, because we all know that they are behind when it comes to other programs. For example, Silhouette has had this forever. They have had this for a while, this function.
Literally,
okay?
I've been doing this in Illustrator since 2009. So yeah. I've been like, it's like they just are so slow to come around to these features. And I honestly think they do it on purpose because it's so streamlined in Cricut Design Space. I think they want to keep it simple.
Yes.
And so that's why they don't release so many like crazy, like fun tasks or like tools. And honestly, I think that they do it on purpose because they gotta know.
Yeah.
They got to know everybody else was already doing it. So.
Yeah. So anyway, back to they do have to make it streamlined. The one thing that I was saying that I don't like is that there's no point of movement. So if you, and I'm sorry, this camera,
entire
everything
we have
is
like
shaking.
a grid system above with like the monitors and stuff, and everything is shaking.
Yes. But what I was saying is there's not a point of movement in the Cricut function. Like it is what it is. Like you can't change it at all. And I've seen some people that have made comments, you can do it in different programs. Absolutely you can. You don't have to do it in the Photopea program that I showed you guys. You can do it in Illustrator. You can do it in Inkscape. You can do it in, somebody dropped another one. So there's plenty of different programs that you can do this in. But the Photopea one was free. You don't have to have anything else. So yeah.
Okay, so I downloaded my fonts. I went ahead and pulled in my wreath file. If you all missed me doing that, it was the Omni font, demonstrate font, and then the wreath file is literally just called wreath. And I went ahead and pulled in this image, and then I saved my work and then hit view and reload after I installed those fonts. That way all my fonts are on my Design Space. But before we do anything else in Design Space, we need to measure our area on our little tray. So let's go overhead. Am I centered? So let's go ahead and measure. Actually, I'm just gonna measure in between our handles. So like 10.5. We don't need to measure all the way across because like we're not gonna be putting words here. So 10.5 by 8. Okay, let's go back into Design Space. And what I'm gonna do here is pull in a basic shape. So I'm gonna be doing an oval, and I'm just gonna pull it over here. Let's go ahead and unlock it, and then we can make this the size that we just measured. So what we say, 10 by 8.5. Y'all know I can't remember numbers to save my life. Okay, so that's kind of like the area that we're working with. So I'm gonna turn this into a guide. Okay, so we're just kind of using this so we know how to where to place everything. Now, if you for some reason can't find this door sign, just measure whatever sign or whatever tray that you're actually placing the HTV on and put those measurements into Design Space. Okay, so I've got my area laid out, and then obviously I want to have a little wreath for my drink and a wreath for my snack. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna send this guide to the back so I don't keep on clicking on it. So we'll send it to the back. And then I'm just gonna open up a text box, and let's pull it over here so we can have it where we're needing it. And we can just start out typing whatever we want. So I'm gonna be using Omni for some of this text. So I'm gonna go to my system fonts, and you could search it here, excuse me. Okay, and this is a very thin font. A lot of people are like, how do you cut such small fonts? My advice for you all is good quality vinyl. If I'm using Caesar EasyWeed, I can cut these dainty fonts so easily. If I was using a bad quality a bad quality vinyl, this would not work nearly as easily. So I always recommend Caesar EasyWeed. It weeds the best. It literally is an easy weed. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna put thanks for hopping by. Okay, and the reason that my letters are overlapped over here is because I think when I pulled this in here, I didn't have the font downloaded yet, and it smushed my letters together. So it's just a formatting issue.
Listen, it was doing that to me with a font that I didn't have downloaded, but it was spreading it apart.
Yes,
not squishing it.
It'll do one or the other sometimes. Hannah, these circle leaves are an MGL SVG. They are, if you type in wreath in a Maker's Gonna Learn website, it'll pop up. I filmed before we did this, and so I can't talk.
Yeah, it's one of those days. It's one of those days that we are showing up, but
because
our brains are mush, but we love you guys, so we're here.
Yeah, I literally was filming and like finished like 20 minutes before we started on the live. So my brain is a little bit miswired right now. But okay, so I selected both wreaths and then I wanted to align them. So I went align and center vertically. This is gonna make them perfectly straight across from each other. And then I'm gonna add in the text for the bottom. Now, if you are just super, super intimidated by these tiny letters, or if you are easily frustrated by weeding the tiny letters, honestly, you could just put drink and snack and like put that on the bottom edge there.
Yeah.
Instead of doing like, here's a drink in case you're thirsty. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of long, but it looks cute. So, you know, it's totally up to you. So if you wanted to just put drink, you could come down here and drop it. And it would be like a lot less
And
text.
what would be really cute is you could even, and this is more of a little bit of an advanced, if you just did that, you could curve the, oh, you were already doing it.
Oh, we were thinking the same thing?
We were thinking the same thing. I was curving it to that circle.
Oh my gosh, we're on the same wavelength. Okay.
I mean, honestly, when are we not?
I know. Okay, snack, and I'm gonna shrink it down and curve it up. And then there you go. I should have shrunk that down a little bit smaller.
Yeah, Lorraine, it is the same font as the one in the finished design. It's just for some reason when we pulled in the completed project, it was, it like smushed the words together, but I promise it's the same font.
Yes. So you could do something like that if you wanted. Just do drink and snack. That way you're not having to weed such teeny weeny letters. And really, like, you could just go without any at all if you really wanted to. And you could just put in like love and the child's name. I almost said the baby's name. Baby, child, you know what I'm saying. And then so now I'm going to go in and add all of my script text. So let's type in Easter Bunny. Okay. And we're using Demonstrate. Y'all know I use this font like literally every day.
Demonstrate is one of my favorites.
It's one of my favorites too. I used it today on something else. And then I'm just going to shrink this until it fits. Okay. And then duplicate. And then we're going to put love, fill in the blank. I'll put Hallie Quinn. This is my best friend's daughter's name. Okay, Hallie Quinn, and then I want those to be closer together, so I'm gonna go to advanced and ungroup to lines, and then I can manually adjust the lines of that text box. So I can either use my arrows to bump it up, or I can just literally take the mouse and pull it up there. So now it's a little bit closer, and I can select one text box, hold the shift key down, and select the other one, and then just pop it right here. And I can even make this a little bit bigger if I wanted to. And then, so that's pretty much it as far as the designing portion. That part. Anybody have questions? Nope. Recheck the dimensions of your guide really quick. Okay, yes ma'am. Are they off? 10 by 8.5?
I think someone was saying it was 10.5 by 8 is what you originally measured.
Oh, see, I told you guys, 10.5 by 8. Okay, let's change the guide and see how much off we are. We shouldn't be too much off though. Let's see. So we might need to make everything like a hair smaller so that it doesn't, look, we do. We probably need to make it a little bit smaller. So let me hide our oval. I'm gonna click and drag everything and just literally shrink it down a little bit, and then go and show the oval again. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for the assistance there.
There you go.
Love it. So, I mean, as easy as that. So now what I want to show you all is how to cut everything that we want to be orange on the same sheet of orange, and then everything that we want to be green out of the same sheet of green. And this is gonna help us line everything up really nicely. What I did, and we can go overhead, so I already cut and weeded these out. I'm gonna show you how I did this here in just a second. I actually cut all of the green together And then I did all of the orange separately because the orange, there wasn't nearly as much orange and I could just kind of manually go in and place it. But I did cut all of the green together. That way, whenever we go to apply it to our piece, I'm not having to go in and like place everything and make sure these are in line and make sure all of this is centered. This way, it's gonna allow me to just put it on there and know that it's centered, if that makes sense. So we've got the green, and then I just did like the Easter bunny and then these two little sections separately, okay? So up in design space, I'm going to select everything that needs to be green. Now, I like to use my layers panel for this, mainly because it's easier to select different things, but you can either do it that way by just selecting here and then holding the shift key and selecting like that. But I'm gonna delete this because it's like right in the way and it's messing with my layers panel. So I'm gonna go over here and select deer, and then we want to do thanks for hopping by. So hold the shift key down, select the layer that you want, and then we want the wreaths. Those are gonna be green. And what else is green? Love, Hallie Quinn, right? Okay. So all of that's green. So what I'm gonna do is come up here next to the operations menu and I'm gonna change all of that to this dark green color. And it's kind of hard like to see that the color changed, but it did. And then you can go in and select Easter Bunny, drink, and snack. And those are all gonna be orange. And so while I have those selected, I'm gonna go ahead, we're not gonna cut those on one big thing. Like I was saying earlier, they're so small. If I cut the Easter Bunny and then drink and snack, it's gonna take up like this whole section of the orange. Does that make sense, Lauren? So I'm gonna not group those together.
Right.
But I am gonna group the deer, the thanks for hopping by, the wreaths, and the love, Hallie Quinn. I'm gonna group those all together. So
yes,
go back in the layers panel, select them, and then we are going to attach them together. That way, they cut exactly where they're at in design space.
So I feel like a lot of our friends, while you're doing that, will sometimes attach one color and then attach another color. And that is great. That is a great way you can do that. However, if you're wanting to try to save vinyl, but you want to keep everything in alignment, pick the color that you use the most of and attach all of those things.
Yes.
And then if you have a secondary or a tertiary color, a third color, however you want to call
Tertiary.
That's, you know,
like
primary, secondary, tertiary colors. You didn't learn that in art class?
Oh, no, I know.
Okay.
It's just, I haven't heard it in a long time. It's a old one.
Anyway, you don't have to attach those. They'll all cut on the same mat out of the same color, but they're easily placed if you have a guide.
Yes.
That's what I was getting at. That way you can still save vinyl.
Right.
And still have a guide.
Yes. And so whenever we go to make it, you all can get a better visual for what we're doing here. When you get to the make it screen, you can see our orange stuff is just going to line up along this top edge. Now, if you're using like a scrap piece and it's only like 4 by 6, you can move your stuff around so that it fits nicely on your piece of vinyl. We've got like almost an entire piece, so I could just cut it on this top edge and be good to go. I would need to mirror everything because we're using HTV. And then in the green layer, I've got everything exactly where it's supposed to go. And I like this because this is like the bulk of our design and I can just go in and plug those orange pieces in.
Yes.
But I do want to mirror it as well because we're using HTV on here as well. So make sure you're always mirroring your heat transfer vinyl.
Yeah, and Kelly asked, did we attach or flatten? We attached because we're using vinyl, heat transfer vinyl to be specific.
Yes.
And flatten is when you do a print and cut.
Yes.
So
those
it
are
was
PNG
attached.
images. Yes. So we're attaching everything. This is perfectly good to go. And then you're gonna select continue, and we're using an Explorer 3. And I always cut my heat transfer vinyl on everyday iron-on. And I want you all to make sure that you're checking which box is highlighted on the left side. So like make sure that you're not laying your orange down right now because it has our green highlighted. So you would just take your standard grip mat, and where did I put my mat at? Here she is. You're just gonna take your standard grip mat. Let me move all this stuff out of the way. Okay, and Obviously this green is not big enough, but I've already cut it out. I just want to show you all how you would lay your vinyl. So you would take your piece of vinyl and you're going to lay the shiny side facing the mat because it's heat transfer vinyl. Okay, so just line it up and then you would send it through the Cricut this way. Okay, so you would cut your green out. And then you're gonna weed everything around your letters and you're gonna leave the wreath and the words, obviously. And that is it. That would be it for the green.
Laura had a good question. Is there a difference between HTV and Cricut Everyday Iron-On? Cricut has just branded their, has just named their brand of heat transfer vinyl Everyday Iron-On, but it is still heat transfer vinyl. That's just what they call their heat transfer vinyl.
Yes. It gets confusing because there's so many brands of heat transfer vinyl, but it's the same type of product.
Yes. So you have Caesar Easy Weed, which is a heat transfer vinyl. You have Cricut Everyday Iron-On, which is still a heat transfer vinyl. Yep. They're all the same, but I guess each company wants to try to differentiate themselves.
Yes.
And be different, so they call it different things, which unfortunately can be confusing for consumers.
Yes. Now, once you get into it a lot, you kind of learn like what's what, because I was definitely confused in the beginning. I was like, I don't understand what's happening. But anyway, so you're gonna go ahead and cut your green out, go ahead and cut your orange out using the same cut settings. You just use a standard fine point blade for this. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn my Cricut Mini Easy Press on. So this is the Mini Easy Press. If you all have been here for any amount of time, you know that we use this like literally almost every day. And I'm gonna put this on the medium heat setting, okay? It does not need to be any hotter than that. It will mess up and like smudge your words around and stuff, so make sure you're not going any hotter than the medium heat setting. And I'm just gonna sit this to the side and let it heat up. And then while it's doing that, I'm gonna add, and I don't know if y'all can tell on the screen, but these are like a different shade of white. And I want this to look like it came this way. And so like on this one, I added some white chalk paint to the handles. You can definitely see a difference here. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. Can y'all tell the difference? Lauren, Sadie, can y'all see that?
What? Oh, yes, in the handle?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I just feel like I needed to, and I think it's more noticeable in real life, because I'm not super picky about stuff like that, but I just feel like it looks like such a different shade of white. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a little bit of white chalk paint. Now I'm using the Starcraft Chalk and Mineral chalk paint for this. It has the same finish as the sign that I've got. And I'm just gonna get a little bit and kind of wipe off any excess. And I'm just gonna add some of this white to my handles. And this is just gonna kind of mesh everything together. So we're kind of concealing that cream color because the cream is just not matching for me. Okay, so I'm gonna do this to both, and you don't need a lot. Like I'm not completely covering them because I want to still give it some dimension, but I'm just kind of adding a little bit. Brenda asked, are you using HTV instead of permanent vinyl for this project as a personal preference? Yes. I personally like to use HTV on wood because I feel like it's more permanent to me. So, you know, if this is something that you maybe want to take off and reuse for like a Santa tray or something, you could use just like adhesive vinyl. But I really like HTV on wood. I just like it. I feel like it like melts into the wood grain and I just really like it. So let's dismiss the fact that my eye is missing in my thanks for hopping by. We're just gonna act like and the E and your. Let's act like it's not happening. Okay.
It's gonna get added on after this, we promise.
Yeah, I'll add it in. I would never let you guys down like that.
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and lay down my green vinyl and my heat press is ready to go. Okay, so one thing about whenever you apply HTV to wood, it likes to slide around. So don't get crazy and like get in here and start going like crazy. It adheres very quickly and it moves. And I don't know, I think it's just with the adhesive and the texture of the wood, it likes to move a little bit. So I'm just gonna go over this very delicately Okay, and I'm gonna work my way from one side to the other. And I even like to go over one section very slowly and then start to kind of pull this up and make sure that it's adhering down. So I'm just gonna go over this bottom section. So this is a hot to warm peel, okay? And then I'm just gonna keep ironing kind of as I go. Remember, you don't wanna do too much movement or too much pressure. Then after you do this a few times, you'll get the hang of it. It's really not that difficult. I'm just spelling it out for you guys. That way you know exactly what to expect whenever you go to do this yourself. So it adheres so well. Like it just sticks right on there, right when you apply the heat. It's really nice.
So people, what level are you on with the mini easy press, which I guess I'm assuming 2?
Yes, I'm on medium, and don't go any hotter than that.
Yeah. And then somebody, do all mini presses have the option of a heat setting? If you get an off-brand that's not Cricut, we can't attest, I guess, to that.
Right.
But the all Cricut has 3 levels. You press it once for 1, twice for 2, 3 for the 3 times, and then 4 times that extra time to turn it off.
Yes. Someone mentioned using washi tape or heat tape to secure the placement. So it's hard to explain. If you guys have ever done HTV on wood, I feel like you understand what I'm saying. So it's almost like the letters, like the vinyl is moving underneath the transfer sheet. And so that's what's moving. And I can't really control that. I mean, I can, when you do it, you'll understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I don't think that washi tape would help it from moving because that's not really what's moving. But that is a good suggestion.
The carrier sheet isn't moving.
Right.
It's if you are not careful
vinyl.
And you're using too much heat when you are doing dainty words on wood. If you're doing too much heat and too much pressure, then it's like the adhesion on the back of the HTV starts slipping.
Right, exactly. And Beat and Tiger made a really good point about if you did this project using adhesive vinyl, like permanent vinyl or removable vinyl, it's very hard to weed dainty words like this. And so HTV is really good and easy to weed when you're working with tiny, tiny letters because it has the transfer tape built in. And adhesive vinyl is just notorious for being hard to weed when you're working with small letters and stuff. So I try to use HTV, honestly, any chance that I can. Yeah. If I can put HTV, I'm probably going to do that.
Yes.
So I've got Easter Bunny right here. Now this is exposed to my iron, to my mini press. And so I don't want that. So I'm going to take this old carrier sheet. I'm just going to lay it down here. You can reuse your old carrier sheets. I like to do that.
Also, Christy asked would a regular iron work. When I first started using a die cutting machine, I didn't know there was such thing as a mini easy press or a Cricut press or whatever. So I always used an iron. The only thing is your household iron sometimes will not give the same even amount of heat across the whole thing. And sometimes I always had the issue with my HTV coming up off of shirts because it wasn't getting hot enough.
Right.
So it's doable. Just know that if you are having those issues, that might be why.
Yep. I did the same thing. I used to just use a regular one. Now, if y'all are in the market and you're like, I need a new crafting iron, the Cricut Mini Easy Press is my favorite. You can use it for, I mean, even though it's small, you can do t-shirts and everything. I mean, if you're like making and selling a bunch of t-shirts, I wouldn't recommend it, but like if you're making them for personal use, the Cricut Mini Easy Press, it's small, it's mobile, like it's just really good. So I'm just going to I'm going to just be very careful up here on the tops.
I would just put it all over the whole thing.
Well, yeah, we could, I guess.
Because you can the heat will still get through both carrier sheets.
Let's just, so Lauren's saying to lay it over the entire thing, and then we can just go in here and iron and just be super careful. Like I said, this adheres really quickly, even through both of the carrier sheets. Okay. Then I'm just going to very slowly pull this up.
Hannah made the comment, I never seem to get the bubbles when using HTV. That's going to be, honestly, the bubbles, in my opinion, when you're doing it on shirts, I for sure get bubbles. When I'm doing it on other surfaces, you're not going to get the bubbles like you do when you're doing it on fabric.
The only time that I do get bubbles when I'm doing HTV on other surfaces is like if it's a big solid piece of HTV. So we actually have a masterclass coming up, and I was having issues with the HTV because it was a silhouette portrait. It's this month's masterclass. It was a silhouette portrait, and I was having issues with the bubbles, and I'd have to like go back over it with the heat, which is what's really nice about the wood is you can go back over it and like kind of iron the bubbles out. And so that's like what I normally do. If I have any, I can just iron them out.
Y'all, that silhouette, when you are ironing HTV on wood, people are asking, do you have to seal the wood before you put HTV on it, or do you have to wipe the tray down, all this other stuff? No, we just go straight in on the wood.
Yeah, we just go in for it. Now you could seal it afterwards if you wanted to. I'm gonna cut this string off because we don't need it. And you can actually get pliers and pull the staples out if you wanted to. But yeah, you don't need to seal it. And I mean, unless y'all are really gonna be eating off of this, this is like a decorative tray.
Yeah, this is more of a decorative piece. This is not a piece that we're going to be serving anything off of.
Yes, and so that's it.